We started?
We did. Yep.
Yeah, everybody I talk to, like, we haven't really come to a consensus if it's something new or if it's always been this way and we just kind of have more a sense of what work is actually doing to us. But it just feels like my soul is being siphoned out of my body. Like feel like I'm trading my soul for money, and it's like not really an equitable transfer of energy, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I can feel this like when I sit and think about getting another job, and obviously it's something I'm thinking about a lot right now and
Yeah.
working towards. But when I sit and think about it, I get this pit in my belly that is not pleased at the idea of doing it. You know? Like
Yeah, for sure.
that is not an equivalent exchange going on. It's bad alchemy.
And something I keep hearing too is like we're trying to fit into the old system that's like literally wrecked humanity, wrecked the planet, wrecked countries. Like it doesn't provide anything good. Like we're supposed to make something new. I mean, what the new thing is, who even knows? But I don't think it's going to be this system for very long. And we're coming up on April. Just saying.
April. So Ellie and I are trying to get up to Indy for the eclipse. And we were talking just a few minutes ago before she went back to work. And we're renting a car to go up there because both of our cars suck and we just don't want to drive that far in it. And I told her we should splurge a little extra on a nicer rental car. That way, if things go to shit, at least we'll have a nice car to drive around.
What are you going to get?
I was like, let's pitch in the extra like $20 or whatever it takes to get an SUV so we can be a little comfy and have a little off-road capability should
Oh, shit.
society decide to collapse on us.
Like a Subaru or something?
Yeah, I mean, whatever's available.
Don't get a Suburban. They're fucking gas guzzlers. Huge as
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. No, probably just like a mid-sized thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the work vibe.
That is the work vibe. I agree. Yeah, Elia was not pleased about going back to work today. She came home for lunch, which she really does. She's like, sneak it out of here for a bit. And yeah, the general vibe, I think, all around is nobody wants to be doing this shit anymore.
Yeah, that was like something that my guides keep telling me too, is that our abundance is wasted on money. Like we're
For
these infinite
sure.
creative beings, and what do we spend that creativity on? Oh, just give me some of this paper. All I want is paper.
Yeah.
It's like you can literally have anything you want, and we just want paper.
I think that, like, once upon a time, the drive was to, like, seek comfort, you know? Like, we were
Yeah.
exchanging that that energy for, comfort when we weren't expending it. But that's not happening anymore. Like, there is no more comfort. There is no more, like, sense of stability or anything. Like, you go to work, you come home, and you're still just as stressed because you're just as broke as you were when you went in.
Yeah, and I see, like, I live with my grandmother, so I'm around like boomer energy a lot, and like their generation is just completely obsessed with just convenience.
Yeah.
Like convenience is the biggest thing. Like they don't care if like the TV that they're watching is toxic and rotting their brain. It's just convenient to turn off the TV and have quote unquote entertainment. They don't care if their food's poisoning them. I just put it in the microwave for 30 seconds and I can eat something. It's just like whatever's most convenient is just what they want. Like they've just been programmed to think that convenience is God, money is God.
Yeah.
It's just so empty. Like there's just nothing to that existence. So like even if we were born like 40, 50 years ago, and we got to be in the good economy, I just don't even think we would be happy.
No, because capitalism saw that desire for convenience and said, hey, if you invest everything into me, you'll get that convenience and all of your offspring will get that convenience too. All you have to do is just give up everything for it. And the boomers went hard into that mentality. They're like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 60 hours of my week every week towards achieving this goal because these people told me it's going to be good for my kids. And then it ended up not being. It ended up being a trap. And instead of recognizing that and fighting to change it, they really resigned to it. And that's what we're stuck with right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, they really swallowed the lure on that one and just they got led down this path. And I can't tell you how irritating it is to have conversations with these people because I see them a lot for work too. And they're like, oh, the young generation doesn't want to work. It's like, yeah, we don't want to work.
Correct.
Like it's fucking horrible. And your generation has all the money and they don't share it with fucking anybody. Like, why would we want to work? Like, do you see like what the world is that you guys created?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys worshipped money, you sold your soul for convenience, and the world went to shit. If we did what you guys did, the earth would just burn. Could you like at least... I mean, the least they could do is like thank us for cleaning up their mess, but no, they're just like... They'd like to give us shit for how much they fucked up the planet. It's just so bizarre to have conversations with them.
Well, thanking us for making the needed changes that we're trying to make is admitting failure on their part, and they can't do that. Like, admitting that they failed means admitting that they failed their offspring, their future generations. They can't admit that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I almost don't blame them for not being able to admit it. That's got to be really hard. It's got to suck to have suckled at the teat of capitalism and grown old on it and realized that it was just an abusive cycle and terrible. And like to admit that your whole life was wasted on such a frivolous pursuit of, financial abundance. Like you said, it's a trap.
And they say like weird stuff too. Like they talk about how important family is, but then they literally just treat their family like shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you actually care about? And I kind of feel like it's just money. Like money is literally the only thing they care about.
I think that one of the reasons they treat us like shit is because they realize how badly they fucked up. I think it's a defense
subconsciously,
mechanism.
Maybe. I don't think it's like consciously. They're like, I fucked up.
No, subconscious for sure.
Yeah. Clean up on aisle 5, capitalism.
This is a big topic of conversation with me and my buddies last night as well. We were talking about inflation and like we talked about it and came to the conclusion that there's nothing we can do about inflation. And so like the last half of our conversation about it was just us describing ways in which the world can have a catastrophe.
We can totally do something.
What do you think that we as individuals do to fight inflation?
Well, we have so many choices. We don't even understand how many choices we have. And we could literally just stop using USD, which is what I think is going to happen probably. Like people are just going to be like, okay, it cost me $250 to buy groceries. You know what? I think I'd rather just get paid in Bitcoin. Can I get paid in Bitcoin or can I get paid in some other form of money? Can I just get gold from my work now? Like that's kind of what I think is going to happen, which is hilarious because you've got like the Federal Reserve that provides the United States with our money, which I don't understand why we need to borrow our money from some private company, but that's what we do. So we borrow all our money and it's just like, this is their system that they created for us, right? Like we have no say in how it's run or how much money gets printed. So like when they blow this up, I don't think they understand that we're not the same generation as our grandparents and our parents. We're not going to let them replace it. Like they're blowing up their system and they're just going to end up out of our lives. That's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to get to fix this problem. Like, we're done allowing you guys to fix problems because you never fix the problems. You just make them worse.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that was the conclusion that we came to, like, was that the only thing that's really going to make a big difference is some kind of catastrophic event of some kind that, you know, people witness and live through and decide they want to do it differently, you know? Like, something to wake up the masses to what's going on is going to have to occur. Obviously, there are things we can do individually to affect how much inflation affects us as individuals. You know, again, like you said, stop using the USD, start bartering, you know, things like that are things we can do individually. But as far as collective, like, cultural shifts are concerned, I think that's only going to happen via some, like, catastrophic event of some kind.
Which, I mean, could definitely happen. There's so much corruption within basically every, I'm not even sure what you would call it. I was going to say like government, but like every form of authority is just completely corrupted. Yeah. So it's like, just pick your thing that's going to come into the light that's going to completely incense people, which it could be literally anything. It could be the medical industry. It could be government. It could be corporate. Like, there's just so much abuse of authority that just any of it could come to light and people are just gonna be like, all right, fuck this. Like, we're actually done.
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely happening around the world at a fairly rapid tick right now. People individually waking up from these small revelations about their lives, about the way they're doing things and how it's not making sense. And that's going to continue to happen on, like, small individual bases. But I don't know. I think something big is going to have to occur for it to slap everyone in the face at the same time and be like, oh, okay, can't do this anymore. Boy, this is dumb. Why are we doing this at all? Let's sit down and talk about what is, you know, an appropriate way to live and not torture our populace in the process.
Yeah, that's like something I've been thinking about a lot, like a lens to look at a lot of these like established ideas, even language, is if this thing, this word, this idea didn't exist, would you create it? Oh. Like, I was thinking about like the word belief last night. If the word belief didn't exist, would you create the idea of belief? Like, what is the point of belief? Like, I don't even understand why we have that as a thing.
When you say belief, like, define that for me a bit.
Like having faith in something without any evidence. Like, that's like what the definition of belief is. So it's like people who believe and people who don't believe, it's the same exact thing. It's literally like the same idea and a different dressing. And then that's like the whole false dichotomy. It's like, do you believe in God or do you not believe in God? When it's literally the same fucking thing, because believing is not knowing. Like, there's a chasm of difference between believing and knowing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I'd say that, no, I wouldn't create the word belief. I don't know. I have a hard time imagining living a life without the idea of faith, though. Like,
well, I think if we didn't have the idea, we would just be in the knowing, because we create our reality and then they create this idea and then the idea is like self-perpetuating at that point.
Okay, so like the word faith or belief is almost like a knowledge hazard. Like the moment
it's
you
like
become aware of that concept, you're like, oh, well, this isn't truth. This is just a faith now.
Yeah, it's literally a shroud.
Right, we would just be living in our own truths instead of being told our truths and trying to reckon that.
Yeah, and then we have to look outside ourselves to all these authority structures that are completely morally corrupt and everything else. Which I really feel like our generation is going back on all that. Like, we're not, I mean, I've always had a strong disdain for authority, and I think there's a lot of people in our generation like that.
Yeah, I know I'm one of them. And I know most of our friends are one of them.
Yeah, I remember my first day in first grade, my mom picked me up from school and she asked me how it went. And I told her, like, I don't understand this whole concept. There's like 30 kids in a class. There's one teacher. None of the kids want to be there. Like, I don't understand why we don't just take over the class and do what we want all day. She got upset. She's like, you don't go to school to have a revolution. You go there to learn. I was like, oh, okay. It
I was
sucks.
talking to Tiff the other day, and she was saying that they were having a really hard time with Kai, her son, getting Kai ready for school in the morning. He was just crying and crying, like, I don't want to go. And I was like, that really makes a lot of sense to me. Like, why would you get up in the morning and go somewhere you don't want to go? Why wouldn't you want to throw a
because your parents did it.
Right.
You learned from them.
It's like, a good one, Kai. Yeah. When I wake up and there's something I don't want to do, I kind of just want to lay there and cry too. I get it.
Yeah, parents and kids do the same shit. Who wants to get up to go to work in the morning?
Gross.
Nobody. It's like all we have to do is just like build a shelter for ourselves and just, forage, farm. Like that's all you have to do. All this other shit. It's like, is technology, I don't know. I think about this a lot. Is technology actually progress?
I think that it's a whole other version of progress, but I don't think it's necessarily directly linked to human progress.
I mean, does it make us happier? Does it make us feel more fulfilled? Is it like filling the void, or is it expanding the void in the human soul? Like, it kind of seems to me like everybody in the Western world is just looking for something, even though they have all this stuff. So what's our technology really doing for us? Anything useful?
It should be. It has the potential to.
Does it?
Yeah, I do think it has the potential to ease burden in ways that free people up to do like the creative, philosophical kind of things that humans really are best at when they get down to it and they start doing it and like are able to dedicate time to it. But I mean, that's not really what we're using it for. We're just using it to maximize profits,
My question would be, what does an infinite being need something to reduce its burden?
My question would be, why does an infinite being need to limit their creativity and their ability to lessen a burden? Like it's just a tool. Technology is just a tool, and I don't think tools as a concept are, necessarily a burden on humanity. I mean, we make tools to more easily accomplish things that we want to accomplish. Not everything needs to be accomplished. That's something that we need to learn as a whole anyway. But I don't think that tools are... I just don't think there's any morality at all to tools. Like, they're just tools. It's about how we use them. And technology is just tools.
Yeah, I don't think there's like any morality with it, but I also think we don't really need tools. Like, everything is consciousness. We are consciousness, and we have the ability to like literally create things from nothing. But I think the tools are what, like, once you have the tools, then you don't need like the spiritual ability to craft your dream anymore. Because I got a bike or I have a car, so I don't need to be able to teleport where I need to go. Or I have energy, so I don't need to like figure out how to levitate or fly or do any of this other shit that I think human beings are fully capable of. I think in a way, tools steal our autonomy.
I think they're just I think we just have two different sides of the same coin view on it. Like, I definitely can see where you're coming from, but I just have a hard time. Maybe I just have a hard time letting go of the idea of using tools. Maybe that's what it is.
It's what we've been raised in.
Like there are nights where we're laying in bed, like me and my partner, and we have the TV on, and it's got like the TV slideshow from Google going, and there'll be like a picture of a cave. And when I see a picture of a cave, the first thing that pops into my mind is that's a home. You know, like I don't need all these tools to be sheltered and safe, but I sure do like the things that the tools make. Also,
Yeah,
a
like
cave would be just fine. I don't know. I guess there's a bit of conflict inside myself on the topic.
yeah, I think internet is like an interesting concept because it's like most people think, oh yeah, I could go off grid, but I would really like internet. And part of me is like, well, if we didn't have internet, that would be like a pretty good catalyst for us to just like develop telepathy. But as long as we have internet, like how are you gonna have like the drive, the desire, the need to develop to just be able to reach out to people when you just have, you know, texting or Discord?
True. We did have like tens of thousands of years to develop those abilities before the internet, though. You know,
I mean, I don't think we've lost anything. I think it's all still in there.
yeah, I'm not saying we lost anything. I'm just saying we didn't develop those abilities in the thousands and thousands of years that we did not have the internet and still needed to communicate, you know.
How do you know we didn't?
I mean, I guess the Tower of Babel moment is certainly there. You know, like maybe we did have the ability to communicate with everyone, and it was.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what version of history we're buying into.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can go even further back than that and be like, okay, well, what about Atlantis and, you know, previous civilizations?
Yeah, I think like Atlantis and Mur and all those places probably had. I think they had a much better relationship with technology than we do.
Yeah, well, and that's the point that I was getting at earlier is I think it's just all about the relationship with it, you know. Instead of being codependent with technology or really just dependent as we are right now, because I mean, the technology doesn't depend on us, you know. Losing that dependence is good, but I don't think utilizing tools is a bad thing.
I wish we understood that culture more, because like it seems like they use like crystals and spirituality and psychic abilities and all that, but we don't really know anything about like their form of government or even the technology that they had. It would be pretty useful for us, especially right now when we're kind of going back to seeing the world and that like through the lens of energy instead of the world of matter. Like it would be useful to be able to look at that right now.
Just need to consult the Akashic record. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that at this moment in time.
Allegedly, everybody has the ability to reach out to the Akashic records, you know. Maybe that's a muscle we should learn how to flex. When I think about the Akashic records, though, I just think of it as the, like, space where, or I guess the dimension where time doesn't exist and everything that ever happened or ever will happen is just available to you, you know? I think it's more about getting out of the 3D that we're in and projecting into a higher space where we can like access that information. I think the Akashic Records is just like a GUI that people slap on top of it to make it make sense.
Yeah, I haven't like tapped into that or really looked in any sort of practice to connect with it.
Well, I think that really any form of divination is reaching into that same energy, you know? Like, I don't often pull cards for the purpose of divination. Most of the time when I'm pulling, like, tarot cards or oracle cards, it's for trying to figure out what's going on right now, you know?
Yeah.
But I think any time that you do divination, whether that be, like, a pendulum or tarot cards trying to figure out future things, or maybe even, like, looking at natal charts and transits and things like that. I think all of that is tapping into that same Akashic space.
And time is definitely like feeling very weird recently.
Yeah, it speeds up and slows down a lot for me. Like I'll have days where really I'll have weeks where time just feels like it's crawling, and then the next thing I know, I blink and several months have passed. You know, like time is functioning weirdly right now.
It's like the past and the future both seem so far away, and like the present moment seems to be growing bigger. Like the moment is kind of like gaining more weight, where I feel like for me it used to be spread out, like thinking about the past, being in the present, and planning for the future was kind of like an even distribution, but now like just the present moment feels like it's getting bigger and bigger. And like the past doesn't really matter. It's not, almost like it's not even real. It's just like a thing that I guess happened.
I mean, that's just the truth, isn't it? Like,
yeah, but it didn't always feel like that. It used to feel like the past was like the story that led to this moment, and like it had some sort of importance to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just deprogramming. You're just doing a good job of deprogramming. You know, that just seems good. Fewer stories you're telling yourself about the past, the less time you spend projecting into the future, and the more time you spend in the present, I think is quality life time.
Yeah, like planning for the future is just such a weird and it gets weirder as time goes on. Just like, how do you plan for something 2 months from now? Like there's so many moments between now and 2 months.
Yeah.
Like who the hell knows like what's even gonna happen?
Yeah, when I try to make plans for the future and then the future arrives and those plans come up, I very rarely feel the same way about what I'm required now to do than I did when I first made those plans. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you could be a completely different person by the time.
Yeah. Like we bought tickets like 2 months ago to a Chapel Roan concert that we went to this past Sunday. And I was so excited for the concert. And then day of came and I just had this pit in my stomach. I was just like, given the opportunity to just not do this, I just think I wouldn't do this right now. I did do it. I did go.
Yeah, we had something like that happen in Vegas too. I forget what it was. There was like some sort of dance show.
Yeah, you guys were supposed to go to like a burlesque show or something.
Yeah, it
right?
was something like that. And like we went to Meow Wolf first, like took some LSD and had like a whole ass experience at Meow Wolf, which was like great, but it was also a lot. So like we went back to the Airbnb, and some people had bought their tickets for the burlesque show for like $100 like a month in advance. And then come the day of, like we're just completely beat. Yeah. And we're just like, fuck it, taking the $100 hit. We're just sitting in the hot tub. Like we're not going to that show.
Yeah, I wish it was easier to just be more impulsive in the present for situations like that. Because let's say that you guys didn't buy those tickets and the night came and you decided, oh, I do want to do this. It
would have been fine. I think it would have been fine, probably.
I think so.
Yeah. I think we have this fear, this FOMO.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was just about to say. FOMO, I think, is a driving force for a lot of us. I know I feel it frequently.
I mean, it's a part of marketing. Like they teach you, like when you're learning how to do marketing, they teach you how to create like the feeling of FOMO in people.
Right. I guess it's like a scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah. Like there's just so much programming just everywhere. And they just teach you, yes, if you're going to be a good marketer, you got to make people feel like they're missing out if they don't buy your product. And it's like we're literally taught to make each other sick for this system to be successful in the system. It's weird.
Yeah. Boy, it's interesting how like those energies ball up when more than one person is involved in the FOMO too. Like planning a group trip like that, if a couple people end up buying tickets, suddenly everybody's feeling that pressure to do it as well.
Yeah.
for fear of missing that experience.
But we also bought the Meow Wolf tickets in advance, and Meow Wolf was great.
Yeah, true. But could you just bought those day of as well?
I think so, yeah. Well, it all worked out.
Talked to my astrologer last night for a couple hours. Had a meeting with her, and that was interesting. There was towards the end there was a conversation about some like big events coming up that she kind of foresees.
In April?
Well, yes, 2030 is where she started with it for me. She foresees a big conflict of some kind occurring in 2030. Yeah, 2030. And that this year is like a collective chance for us to avoid that thing in 2030 if we're able to, who knows, do something, who knows what that thing is. But she also said that in 2027, that's a big year, and that she agrees with Jess a lot on what Jess has been saying about that year and how that a time shift essentially is going to happen in 2027, which I think that's the word going around, is that there's going to be some kind of timeline jump, and some people are going to make it, some people aren't. And yeah, I hope I'm on the fun timeline.
People go, it's just energy. Like, you're going to go where your energy, like, just whatever you are, you're going to go. I don't really think there's anything to worry about,
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that they chose to be here. Like, there's this idea that because we forget that we didn't choose, but it's like we all chose to be here, and we chose to be here because the experience is going to offer us something. And we're going to have that experience that offers us the thing that gave us the impetus to come here. So it's just like, I don't know, there's just such a grasping for control that is just completely unnecessary. It's like we're in a movie theater and we spend the entire movie just like gripping the seat in front of us when it literally doesn't change the movie at all. But it hurts our hands at the end of the hour and a half.
I like that. It's a good visual.
But I also feel like we have free will, and I'm not really sure. So I guess it's like, it's a movie, but we also have God inside us, and God has autonomy and free will. So there's some sort of interplay there.
The movie where we play all the roles and we write the entire script, and we still clench in our seats the whole time.
Clenched for your pleasure.
Well, that's interesting to look at life as one giant suspense film.
Yeah, it's like Earth is changing genres. It was a horror movie, and now we're going to like an action movie or a fantasy movie.
Let's get a buddy comedy going.
You do that. I mean, I do think we're supposed to be taking things less seriously.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to take things seriously at this point. Like, you gotta overlook quite a lot of goofy shit to be serious right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't understand how anybody can be serious about politics at this point. Like, the whole landscape is so goofy.
And it's not even just America either. Like,
oh yeah, I'm sure it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's politics everywhere. Yeah.
So like two people in their mid-80s just losing it.
God, well, yeah, in America it is particularly insane. The ruling from the Supreme Court a couple days ago, I guess maybe it was yesterday, about Trump being on the ballot, like, okay, you can be on the ballot moment. That just seems wild to me. Like a 9-0 decision that, yeah, we're going to keep him on the ballot. That just seems kind of crazy to me.
And democracy is just like, I don't understand why people like it so much, or why it's seen as like some great form of government. Like, it doesn't really seem to be working super great.
Yeah. I mean, what's the alternative here? I mean, historically, the alternative is a what dominant leader, a tyrant.
No. When I was younger, I used to think anarchy was stupid. The older I get, like, the better anarchy sounds.
Well, I think it's probably because the anarchy that you were viewing and being fed when you were younger was silly. It was just violent and, punk rock. When the true version of anarchy is pretty mundane. It's just doing what you want and allowing people to live how they want. It's not about it's not about the violence and the overthrow, in my opinion. It's about the saying, I just don't care anymore, and doing exactly what you want to do instead of what people are telling you to do. That's anarchy to me anyway.
I mean, to me, anarchy is like the forest, the ocean, the ecosystem. Like, the fish don't pay taxes. The deer have to fucking register. The deer need a permit to eat the grass.
They do if they're eating the grass in the king's forest.
Like, everything seems to be working out in nature just fine without government.
Yeah.
So I just don't think that we need it, but we've been conditioned to think you need big daddy government to take care of you. What would you do if you didn't have government to build all these beautiful roads for you? It's like, well, I think we could probably figure it out. I don't think we need to pay trillions of dollars to pedophiles just so we can have roads. I don't think that's necessary. And it's not like we just get roads either. It's like, oh, we get roads, we get pedophiles, we get bombs, we get wars, we get technology hidden from us that could change life on the planet. It's like we have 7 bad things that we get from government, and we get one good thing, and people are like, oh yeah, let's have a government.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of a government that uses our money wisely. Like, I'm not opposed to social services in general as a concept. Like, I like the idea of a little bit of what I'm generating going towards making life easier for other people. It just sucks that the majority of what we pay into our government goes towards war and propping up.
Why do we need the government to do that for us? Because the government doesn't have... Like, that's the thing about, like, social services and stuff. Like, the government isn't a human being that has a job that makes money. The only money it has is our money. So if we want to give money, if we want to be charitable with our money, then we could be charitable with it. Why do we need the government to take our money to be charitable on our behalf? That's that's what doesn't make sense to me about that kind of stuff.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, ideally, we would be doing this as, either individuals or small collectives of people working towards, making life easier for those around us. And I mean, that's what we're trying to go towards, you and I and our group of people. Like, I get that. I get that. Convincing others is the issue,
Yeah, I mean, our community, like, somebody needs a lawyer, they reach out, and then, like, the whole community just, like, puts in a little bit, and then we get there. And I think that's how it should be. Like, we don't need a government. What we need is community. Like, that's what we're looking for. We're not really looking for government. We're looking for community.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the government promises a sense of well-being.
Yeah, it's almost like a gang. Like, instead of an actual community, it just, like, takes advantage of all its adherents.
Yeah, like a shakedown mafia situation is pretty appropriate.
Yeah, that's really what it is, a mafia. Corporation, but, like, I don't know, government's almost a fake word. It's like a nice little cover for what they actually are. Just criminals, really, at this point.
I really want to do this Airbnb thing, man. or the bed and breakfast thing.
Every time I think about it, I call it the Airbnb in my head as well. So I'm
I
glad
know.
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. I hate that though. That's like a business name. Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Bed and
We're
breakfast is
fucking programmed.
like, even just the word bed and breakfast sounds delightful. Like, yes, I would love to sleep in a bed and eat breakfast.
I think about that, but I also think like, fuck, is that gonna be enough money? Are we gonna be able to like, how are we gonna pay for like taxes and electricity and mortgage? Like, that's the kind of thing I think about with like a bed and breakfast and stuff. Like,
I
I
think
don't
in an
know.
ideal world, the bed and breakfast would pay for itself, but probably not really generate any income. Like, I would hope that we'd be able to rent enough to pay like our rent and, you know,
Yeah,
bills.
I'm assuming we're gonna have a mortgage. I don't think we're
Yeah, I
just
would
gonna
assume
have
so.
like
Yeah,
800K fall out of the sky or however much it
right.
costs.
I think that we'll probably have to open up another business on top of it to generate the money, like a small business within whatever small town we end up next to.
Like a coffee shop or a restaurant or something.
Yeah, coffee shop, restaurant, bakery, uh, maybe even just like all of those wrapped up into one giant just community gathering area, like just a spot where, I don't know, maybe even almost like a spiritual flea market, like just an area where people can come in and set up booths and do their services. And then we also provide, some food or whatever.
Yeah. I've also thought about like how would we monetize, like how could we turn, I don't know how to put it into words without it sounding gross. Like, is there a way to monetize like the alien school field trip vibe more? Could we like run like an event a month and like turn that into a
Yeah.
revenue stream?
I mean, that's something that we talked about with the cosmic circus idea, like small events that we would like organize and run locally in different places.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Rick is doing with Rest Fest, I think that's like kind of a hot alien summer camp or cosmic circus event, but I don't know how to turn that into money. Like, I don't know how to turn that into something
Merch or
off
something.
of. I just don't know how merch would make enough money to support that idea. I feel like it's got to be, I don't know. I feel like we need some kind of hook. Boy, I hate that though. Like, I wish we just didn't have to worry about the money portion of it, because just doing it would be so much fun and rewarding.
Well, I don't know. Like when you say that, like what comes up to me is that we don't have to worry about it. Like if we just do it, I don't know. Like the way my guides are showing it to me is money is just an aspect of this current reality. And if you just do what you want, like the money will be there. It's not like you need the money first. It's kind of how it feels to me. Like, just do what you want to do, and the money will settle where the money settles.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of feel like we need a little bit of money to get started with that,
That's what it feels like, but money doesn't create reality. We create reality.
I guess I just think about like physically moving up there and having a place to stay while we start this thing,
Yeah, I just think we have so much. I think that's part of why the energy just feels so weird right now is I think our ability to create reality has been vastly upgraded and we kind of don't realize it yet. Like we're kind of walking across a frozen lake thinking that the ice is like an inch thick when it's actually a foot thick. Like, I think if we just step out there right now, we're gonna be supported. Like, that's what this weird energy is that we're all kind of feeling unsure about. I feel like it's bringing everything we've ever wanted. We're just like so nervous and so programmed that we just don't right now have the confidence to step out into it.
Be honest, like I'm kind of living that truth right now, but I'm feeling a guilt over it in some ways.
Yeah.
Like I haven't had a job in like a year and a half. Not really anyway. You know, I've had a couple small gigs, but I do find that my needs are consistently met. And I don't know, like I'm definitely experiencing abundance in so many ways that aren't monetary right now in my life. But I mean, I feel guilty over like where those windfalls that I occasionally have are coming from.
Like, why? Where does the guilt come from?
I guess knowing that other people are dealing with the misery of working and that I am essentially profiting off of that.
I can't remember who said this, but somebody said, like, people are the hand of God. Like, if this thing just popped out of the air, we would feel better about it. But right now, the way reality works, things don't just pop out of the air. Like, God hands you things through people.
Yeah, I mean that like I said, I've been living that truth for a hot minute now. I just wish
Yeah.
I could get that knot in my stomach to go away when I think about it.
Yeah, it
You know?
is like stressful just knowing that, like, I'm assuming like credit cards are a big part of the equation right now.
Honestly, no. Credit cards are something I've never done to myself. I had one credit card. It is maxed out, but it was like a $1,300 limit. Oh, I'm not living
Oh,
off credit
damn.
cards. Like,
Oh, so you're not like super in debt or anything?
no, honestly, I'm not really in debt at all at the moment. Like before, like when I lost my job in August of 2022, I cashed out my 401k and paid off all my debts,
Shit.
which took my whole 401k. But yeah, I'm not really living with much debt at the moment, you know, which is nice, but also kind of living just on the graces of other people at the moment as well, which feels good in the sense that people want to take care of me and I'm being taken care of, but feels bad in the sense that I know that they're, again, living that misery of capitalism and I'm surviving off of that from them. But I also don't know what to do about it. Like I am looking, you know, and I don't know what to do about that pit in my stomach that I get when I think about going back into it.
Do you have a gun pointed at their head, forcing them to give
No,
you
of
this
course.
charity?
Of course not. No. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a interpersonal thing I need to work on within myself. That feeling. I know that, you know,
Yeah.
because like nobody is guilting me for the help that I'm getting. You know, I'm not feeling like pressure from people to pay them back or really any sense at all that they expect anything from me in return, which is great, you know. And like I'm also seeing that this is like a bit of like karma coming back around to me because I have always been someone to help anyone out that needed it, you know, without any afterthought, you know. And like I'm having people in my life come up to me now and like randomly send me Venmo and they're just like, hey, you know, you've done this for me in the past, of course I'll do it for you. But even that gives me a little sense of guilt. I'm like, well, I didn't do it back then, so it would come back around to me. You know, I did it back then because it just felt like the right thing to do.
Is that a Christian thing, you think, like the guilt?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, like the guilt. I have a hard time relating to guilt, but also like Christianity and religion was not like a part of my upbringing. So I kind of feel like I lucked out missing that particular programming.
It's really interesting talking to people that didn't grow up religious because Elia did not either. And so we have this conversation a lot in our house about like the ways that religion sculpted who I am and like just how she just doesn't experience reality in the same ways that I do because of that.
Yeah, there's like weird, like guilt especially. It's just like they program you to feel guilty about like so many things that just don't even make sense to me.
Right. Well, a sense of obligation is what Christianity is all about. Jesus came and he died for you. You don't have a say in that. He did it. It's over. It's done with. And now you owe him to be a good person because of it.
That's so wild to me because, like, in my interpretation of it as an adult, like, he did that as service. Like,
Sure,
the Romans want, like, he was the son of God. And he had all these superpowers. He gave himself to the Romans because in his time, that's what, like, most people wanted him dead. So he's like, all right, you want me dead? I am such a giving person that I will give you that.
Yeah. I mean, looking back at the Gospels, I definitely see that now. Like when I think about Jesus consciousness and things like that, concepts like that, those are the ideas that I latch onto. The idea that you give not because you're being forced to, you give because it's, the right thing to do. And, loving each other has no real downsides. If everybody loves each other, it's going to be all right. And I see that in Jesus's teachings in the gospel, but that's not how it was presented to me growing up. From the pulpit, that's not what I was hearing. I was hearing, you are a sinner. You are by default in debt, and it's your job to, worship and perform penance for the rest of your life in order to make up for that.
And even like the idea of worship, they just got their fingerprints all over it. You have to be in a church and you have to be giving to the church.
Right. Yeah.
Like if God created the whole universe, and why isn't that the church? Like, can I worship God from anywhere? Why does it have to be in your fucking building?
Right.
Like, that never made sense to me.
That's so opposed to what Jesus taught as well. He specifically said, where two or more of you gather in my name, I am there also. The idea being that you don't need to go to church. You don't need to do all of that. All you need to do is just, listen to what I said and live by, these golden rule ideals that I presented, and you're fine. You're good.
Yeah, like I haven't connected with Jesus a whole lot, but I feel like that the whole energy behind like these higher dimensional God people is just like, their whole attitude is for your consideration. Like they're not telling you to do anything. They're just like, here's these ideas, take them or leave them. If they're useful, use them. If they're not, don't.
Yeah.
There's no like punishment if you don't follow what Jesus said.
Have you ever seen the movie The Man from Earth?
I think so. Hold on, let me look it up.
Yeah, the whole movie takes place inside of a cabin, and it's about this professor who is quitting his job.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. And like the idea that he was like a teacher or someone who studied under the Buddha and then brought their ideas to like Christianity by, being Christ, essentially. But what he said there made a lot of sense to me. He's like, hey, I wasn't telling people to do anything. I was just saying, hey, these are some really enlightened ideas that you should all really consider. Like maybe just love each other. Maybe don't hate each other. Maybe don't kill each other. If you treat each other how you want to be treated, you'll be good.
Yeah, like there's no expectation from these beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like they literally just want you to have your experience.
Why would an all-powerful being give a shit what you do, really? Would they care?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect them.
It doesn't at all. I mean, the idea of worship in a collective has always seemed so like needy to me on behalf of the Christian God.
The God, they believe in a needy God, a needy, insecure God.
Yeah, I almost believe that the Christian God's real, and he's just one of the gods who's just like a narcissist power trip.
Yeah, I think all these religions are probably based on like Anunnaki, and some of them were cool and some of them were shitheads, and you can kind of tell which were which just by reading the Bible that was based on them. And it kind of seems like the Christian guy was a dick.
Yeah, he's like, we're going to flood the world. You all suck and you're talking to each other. I'm going to make sure you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally like a fascist dictator. Like, why would you want to follow that?
Because we're a Christian nation. It's
Yeah,
starting to make more sense.
and they push it into your head when you're young, so it'll go in there because you would not accept that shit as an adult, I don't think. Although you do have born again Christians, so fuck knows.
Yeah, true.
Have you made progress with that?
With what?
Deprogramming yourself from all that?
Oh, yeah, but I think that's going to be a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Like, the morality of it is the part that I have the hardest time with. The deprogramming of what's sin and what's not sin. You know, that feels so ingrained to me that, like, there are things I think about doing and I'll stop myself, be like, oh, that's sinful or that's wrong. And then, like, I think about it critically and I'm like, actually, that's just fine. It's okay. Like, it's all right to be a little selfish every now and then, especially if it doesn't hurt anybody, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a lifelong deprogramming thing for me, but I've definitely made a lot of progress.
Man, the deities love everybody, even the sinners. Like, there's no... Like, it's literally just a fucking game. Like, Hitler was just a character in a game. Did some bad shit, but, like, it's a game, and we put so much importance on it. But it's just... I don't know. Somehow, I guess it helps people to have a narrative, a bad guy to point at. But, like, something I've been thinking about a lot lately, like, you have this whole punch a Nazi thing, right? Like, what do you think punching a Nazi is going to actually do? Like, does that make more love in the world? And, like, the whole idea of, like, okay, we found this person and they're racist, right? So what do? We're going to cancel them and take away their money so they can't feed themselves. And that's... What, that's going to make the person not racist anymore? Is that how you actually think this works? Like, all these people that are kind of seen as socially unacceptable, like, the way that you fix them is with love. Like, you're literally, like, you should be thinking hug a Nazi, not punch a Nazi. Like, the way that you make people not racist is by introducing them to people of the race that they're racist against and exceeding their expectations. But we just have this, like, society where we think we need to be, like, morally superior to people.
This is, like, erupting the old punk inside of me, this punch a Nazi talk, and making me think about it. I think that in the interest of, like, interdependence, you shouldn't go around hunting people down to punch in the face.
Yeah, probably not a great strategy.
Right. But I will say that as an interdependent being, if you are trying to violently force those ideals on others, if you're trying to violently enforce those ideas on me, it's at that point that I say, yeah, it's okay to punch a Nazi. Like,
yeah, I mean, you got to have your boundaries. Like, you're not going to let somebody overstep your boundaries. But I think the idea of just, like, taking away people's ability to, you know, feed themselves and interact with others isn't very productive. Like, it kind of seems to me like they just want to kill these people. Like, let's just kill all the bad people and then we'll have a perfect society. Never mind the fact that the person who killed these people is kind of, like, now morally questionable. Like, we'll just have a perfect society after that. I just feel like we're kind of coming to a point where we need to start thinking about integration instead of othering. And I mean, I'm sure there's probably plenty of, like, Nazis and racist people and whatever other kind of undesirables that just aren't ready for integration, but there's probably some of them that are, you know?
Oh, there certainly are some that are. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the first point of action when dealing with a fascist should always be pointing out the ridiculous in ways that being a fascist just makes no sense. Like I think going at them with love and open dialogue is key. I don't know. If someone won't listen to reason, though, like I guess I'm specifically thinking like narcissists, like someone who's legitimately a narcissist or has, a personality disorder that will not allow them to get out of their own, reality or mind or whatever. I don't know that any amount of love will fix that.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Narcissism specifically. Like my view of narcissism is kind of like evolving. I used to think it was just like something that somebody was and just like fuck them, but now I'm kind of seeing it more as like a disease or a program that's been installed, especially in older people. You see it a lot in like the older generations, I think, more so than the younger. But yeah, it's just like this weird defense mechanism for people's programming is kind of what it looks like to me now.
Yeah.
Like you touch somebody's programming and like this narcissistic behavior kind of manifests as a defense mechanism almost.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like, what do you think fixes narcissism? Just being like rude to them or kicking them out of our lives, which is kind of like how I've gone about dealing with it now. And it's like, no, it's love. It is irritating that love is literally like the answer and the cure to everything.
Right. But I think boundaries are important in those situations.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to have boundaries. Like it doesn't work if you don't understand like how to maintain and enforce your boundaries.
Right. And
but you also have to be open-hearted too. Like there's a balance.
Sure. Yeah. That's the really hard part about a narcissist though, is that they don't respect those boundaries. The hard thing about working with a narcissist is that you will set a boundary and they will say, I don't care about your boundary because I want what I want.
Yep. It is definitely like a dance.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's, something that we have. I do think there's a solution to it and that we have to figure it out because these people are still ultimately, a part of our community, a part of our oversoul. So it's like we can't just, I don't know. I just keep having this thought that we're just not in the business of throwing people away,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But the way we integrate these people is, I don't know, maybe we don't have like the full picture yet.
Yeah. But is it, I don't know. Ever since our trip in January, this has been something on my mind.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like
about like what energies I want to have around me.
Mm-hmm.
And is it selfish of me to enforce that boundary? Like, should I be more open?
Yeah.
I think for the majority of my life, I've been a very open person. I've been a very accept everyone, leave no one out kind of person. And January's event, as well as something I went through in December, really kind of shifted my view on that.
Well,
and I'm kind of having a hard time wrestling with that.
When I think about January, I think that a lot of boundaries were overstepped. Like there was, I don't really like the idea that words are violence, but there was like lots of shitty language and I don't know how much exactly. There was like literal violence that happened, which is like, you can't just let people fucking be running loose in your community being violent.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
But
like something I come back to. But another thing I think about is like, is there a road to reintegration? And I feel like there is, and like this person hasn't taken any steps towards that.
right. I mean, it's clear they want to be reintegrated.
But I think it's just to like kind of get their energy vampire straw back of the neck of the community is kind of how I feel. This the energy that I get from it. It's not like I want to be a healthy member of the community.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if any one of us would have had that episode, it would have been like, okay, they had a bad day, but it's like I've had all these other experiences with them, but this particular person, like, doesn't really have anybody coming forward to defend them because they really don't contribute anything. Like, they're just here to take. It's kind of how I look at it.
I mean, I don't think that's true on like a really deep level. Like, I don't think that is where that person is coming from. I don't know. Like I said, I'm struggling with it because I do want to be a person that forgives and gives people second chances. But I also don't want to be a person who allows somebody into our community that hurts someone or does like damage.
Yeah, like the boundaries.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess to me, the whole situation is this person's not really looking to respect people's boundaries. They're just kind of looking for a free energy meal.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that's just my programming talking, but that's how I see it right now.
As soon as you said free energy meal, my stomach growled so loudly. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it picked it up on the mic.
Man, these bodies be like that.
I think I need the energy vampire or something. Oh.
Energy vampire, a burger, or pizza.
Burger sounds so good right now.
I don't know like what anybody's dietary restrictions are.
Like in general?
Yeah, I'm just like nervous that I'm going to say like, this person wants a burger and they're like, no, I'm a vegan. Oh, I don't know.
Any vegan who gets upset when you offer them a burger is just a vegan for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, like, don't get upset because I offered you nourishment.
I love animals, but I also enjoy meat.
I also don't think that any animal would hesitate for a second to eat me. For a moment.
Few of them.
Well, okay.
I mean, your own people, maybe.
Sure, yeah, other than people, yeah.
Well,
although,
I guess
I was the ones using, but
I was mostly meant like bears. I think there's some bears that might look at you like a snack.
It's true. What are we going to call this show? I think we should play off about both of us being kind of animal spirits.
I don't know. Nothing is coming to me, which is probably makes it hard to host the show, not having a name.
Yeah, right now the name is something new, and that's not a real name. That was a placeholder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll meditate on it more.
If we could find a tiger spirit to join us, we would have lions and tigers and bears.
Yeah. That's Pete right there. Pete has tiger energy.
Yes, he does. Yeah, it's true. Anywho, we're at an hour and 11 minutes, and I like that synchronicity a lot. So let's end this here today.
All right.
It's a good talk, man. I appreciate it.
So thank you guys for listening. Sign up for the Patreon and help Jeff with his situation.
Right? Sign up for the Patreon. If we get enough money on the Patreon, I'll just use all of that money to travel around and interview people for the show. How's that sound?
Yeah, set up a new church.
Boy, that's a talk for next time. My astrologer mentioned some stuff about cults, and yeah, we'll discuss that another time.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.